Great. And by the way, so welcome to State of Play again. This is the day after the State of the Nation delivered by the President. The question is simple. What is the true state of the nation? What we heard yesterday was the state of the nation. But what is the true state of the nation? That is based on assumption that possibly what we heard yesterday may not be exactly the true state of the nation. Maybe a version of it. We don't know what you think, but we'll get into that. And my colleagues are here with me on that subject. For me, the major highlight was the president's assertion that, he hasn't been reckless in borrowing.
Oh, that one. First of all, the true state of the nation is what you feel in your pockets.
Yes.
That's the state of the nation. That's the state of affairs. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the state of play. What you feel in your pocket is what it is. But, Evans, the president hasn't been reckless in borrowing.
Yes, you see, he hasn't been.
And spending.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Why are we with the IMF?
Because of COVID and Ukraine. Did you hear him yesterday?
Hold on. Why are we trying to bring our debt to sustainable levels?
Because of COVID and Ukraine.
Because of COVID that we borrowed.
No.
Yes.
No.
It's the president who said it.
No.
That was the president's account.
COVID-19 related expenditure. COVID-19 related expenditure was 12 billion. Mm-hmm. If you add the shortfalls and the budgetary support, it takes you to 25 billion. Okay, at that point, for instance, if you are looking at 25 billion, and if you are to look at 400 billion, that's our GDP. Okay, so just do 400. So 25 divided by 400
times 100.
Times 100. That's 6% of GDP. Is that why we are suffering?
That is why we are going to the IMF.
Is that why we're going to the
6%
IMF?
of GDP.
So why
6% of GDP? Is that why we're going to the IMF? Oh, come on, that's not why we're going to the IMF.
So that's COVID. What about Ukraine?
Somebody said something.
In fact,
in fact.
You quantify COVID. What about Ukraine?
I just had a conversation with, is it Tarzan who said that? Someone said that to me today, Tarzan. He said, which part of the money that we borrowed did we take to Russia or Ukraine? Did we give to Russia or Ukraine? That today we're suffering because of Russia and Ukraine. That's just by the way. But the point is, if today you consistently told us your debt was within sustainable limits, we told you it was unsustainable. You said it was sustainable, and you've admitted that your debt to give is over 100%. Why? If you had engaged in prudent borrowing, you have generated enough money to pay back the loans. You would not have reached over 100%.
To be fair, I mean, sometimes some of the comments, they are not necessary. Before the president came into office, our debt was at 120.3 billion. Auditor General's final audit of it, 120.3 billion. In fact, you can take government's own figure, 122 billion. If you move something from 122 billion to almost 500 billion, what have you done? And you see, we are talking about comparing projects and the things that we have done over the space. Evans Mensah, the major projects that this government actually talks about, which ones are they? That's building a university, that they have done feeder roads, predominantly feeder roads, more than any other government in the history of this country. That they are building some interchanges. Some of the people are still fighting over that. That's not the main point. But if you move, and there is no rationale for that, if you move debt for 122, if under your tenor, debt moves from 122 to 500, you have no excuse. You have absolutely no right to claim that you've been prudent. Seriously, see, when you talk about debt to GDP,
he didn't claim that he was prudent.
No, because if
he had not been reckless.
Opposite of not being reckless, it's not prudent. Yeah, it means that you really did the right thing. But we know that the evidence on the ground does not just suggest that. See, if you are going to borrow Evans because you know you have the space to pay for it, it's only a reckless person that goes borrowing without knowing where they're going to get the money to pay for it. Do you know what we do in this country? We borrow, then we borrow to pay the previous borrowing. Then we look for money to actually also borrow again to pay the previous borrowing that we do. So cyclical loop of borrowing. And for a man who said we're moving from taxation to production, for a man who said that we could be independent of some of these things, and that this country can develop based on our own resources, a bit of the conversation, and see, we didn't start taking Euro bonds from Acquah time. as far back as 2013, we're taking Euro bonds, sometimes 500 million, sometimes 1 billion. Then we moved this straight into taking 2 billion. We did party for successful Euro bond.
So I have done something. I have this document, and my source is the Ministry of Finance. Now, in 2017, so 2020, 2016, end of year, our total debt was 122 billion. By 2017, 142 billion.
Yeah.
Additional 20 billion.
That's with the first year.
First year. By end of 2018, 173 billion.
Yeah.
Additional 31 billion. By
Second
2019,
year.
moved to 218 billion. Evans, listen carefully.
Yeah.
Then let's get to 2020, COVID-19 year. 291 billion.
By 2019, we had doubled it. Yes. Almost doubled it. 122 to 218.
We had doubled it.
You think about it, oh.
And we're actually at that point in time, we were trumpeting our exchange rate appreciation.
Yeah.
So let's be mindful of that. Then let's get to the COVID-19 year. 291 billion, end of 2020. By end of 2021, 351 billion. By end of 2022, 575 billion. That's end of November.
The very things we claim COVID did to us.
So where's the COVID point?
Yes.
I'm asking about.
So this
are you supporting that COVID analysis?
Me, I'm not supporting. I'm asking you a question.
No, but you are supporting the COVID analysis. Where is the COVID evidence here?
I'm just asking the question.
Evans.
So but I've asked the question.
No, but where is the COVID analysis here?
Yeah.
But you're the president.
But the fact that I have heard the president doesn't mean I must believe what the president has said.
So you don't believe the president?
Evidence. Minister of Finance. Why do I produce these figures?
Yeah, because it's your own figures. You create the impression that COVID cost you, and you see, sometimes we forget the amount of money we received during COVID.
Yes.
Some of them were for free.
Yes, we had grants.
We make it look like we poured ourselves into.
In fact, we received, and this is something that Parliament will still look into. But even the Auditor General's report, which the President referenced yesterday to say I already, didn't do justice to all the sources of funding that came in for the COVID.
That's true.
But there are
the comparisons are
very
quite
important
clear.
sources that didn't come in. But even the ones that we got, if you put it all together, we were over $2 billion.
Yeah.
And
convert to cedis.
That's a huge amount.
Yeah.
That is far more than the last 5 IMF programs that we received.
And we pretend that we don't know that we got in these monies.
Oh, we know. We got them.
No, see, in all fairness, sometimes I think that we should not, it will be that impossible. The president came to tell everybody that, see, we have got into a big mess. We made some mistakes. We are willing to correct these mistakes. But the most important part to me is that going into the future, these things will never happen.
No, but
this is what we intend to do.
Reason why
my problem is that government, and see, he went back 2017, he went back very far. He was basically doing end of term evaluation and assessment and the address. After all those sayings, you come up to create the impression that, well, I've not been reckless.
But why wouldn't he do that? He would do that because that is where, under an IMF program, we were doing well.
Yeah.
2017, 2018, 2019, by end of 2019, we were at high risk of debt distress.
Maybe that's why I had to go back to the IMF.
No, but you see, and in fact, do you know the love letter the IMF left us when they were going?
Yes. We'll come back.
No, they're just a phone call away. They are prepared to help us the next time.
Yeah, because it was
because the IMF
going to crash again.
We're so indisciplined that we're going to come back to them.
Yeah, your history has suggested that you also will go back to them.
No, but you see, that's for me is the problem. That when you have a president, and I've just shared the figures with you, when you have the president consistently living in denial, that for me is worrying.
You're saying that the president was in denial yesterday?
Of course, the president was in denial.
If it's not for politics, who is telling the president to say some of this?
No, the president was in denial.
We know the president doesn't draft his own statement.
Yeah.
Somebody misled, not even just misleading them. Somebody made the president make the massive error of thinking that, so sorry, did we tell the president I wanted one factory, one village, one dam?
No,
did you tell the president we wanted 1 million per constituency?
So when they say we, I mean, as for that, he campaigned on it, and you voted for him. So that is an endorsement.
No. We know that.
But following victory,
yes,
we told them.
No, but he came to you that I will do it, and you voted for him.
Hold on.
People in this country voted because
Ken Ofori-Atta is on record to have said that he doesn't see why Ken Ofori-Atta should be son or daughter should be enjoying free SHS.
Yes, of course.
Did he say it or did he not say it?
But he did it.
What was that telling you? Because when you have your finance minister, and I can reasonably infer that the finance minister at the time was not in agreement with a wholesale free SHS.
I recall Mustafa Ahmed speaking to the matter and said the finance minister is not the president of this country.
Yes.
But he should concentrate on his finance
ministry.
Oh,
it was a fact there.
But the guy is the one raising money for you. He's the one looking for the money to pay the money.
That is why everything we are saying comes to the doorstep of the president.
And that is why we're telling the president that you're living in denial. That is why we're telling the president that we don't know where you got your information from. Because,
when I had a reckless, I said, okay, let me go and check the dictionary. You are an Englishman. Cambridge says I was not reckless in borrowing. Reckless. Showing a lack of care about risks. And for me, that is
lack of care about
risks or danger. And acting without thinking about the results of your actions. And for me, it describes the actions of an investment banker, finance minister.
100%.
Investment banker, what do?
They just raise money.
They take risks.
They take risks.
But the other point is this.
They take extreme. In fact, the higher the risk, the bigger the reward. That is the principle they operate by.
But we can accept not always true with that.
But they operate by that principle.
By that principle.
There's actually an article by Appleby that says government is different. all people should read it. Government is different. And I was having this conversation with Ken Thompson as well. You see, government is different. And that is why sometimes people within the private sector, when you get into government and you think that is so simple, you go in there, you will fail. Because the things you invest in sometimes, some of the things you may invest in are not things that will quickly generate money for you to pay your debts. Of course. And that's why you must be very careful. And you see, when you are borrowing, this definition explains us.
Read
it again.
It says, showing a lack of care about risks.
Hold on a second. When we borrowed the money, what did we use it for?
One village, one dam.
What
1 million per constituency. Building hospitals.
Yes.
Building KVIP. Some of them 3 good years. I remember when we reviewed Ododojo Zone. 3 good years into the tenure. 3 KVIPs. No one has been completed.
So, what is the return on the investment when it comes to the construction of a KVIP? What would have been the return on investment if we had constructed the Eastern Corridor Road and have brought in lots of food into the city
and told it?
You see, what would have been the return on investment, for instance, if we had, dualized Accra to Kumasi, gotten a lot of things easy transport into and outside the capital, and told it, not just 1, 2, or 3, and increase the toll, for instance. Would that have made a lot of impact on our economy? It would have. So, what would hurt, for instance, when we know that we have a lot of fish coming from the Volta region, and because of the Volta River and other part and the Volta Lake. So, what prevents us, for instance, of dualizing that road and tolling it? Okay, look, think about it.
So for me, and you just confirmed
I need to make this point. Forgive me,
please go on.
Because I'll forget about it. In 2019. The year we left the IMF program, in April of that year, later on in the year, there was a debt sustainability analysis done by a joint one by the IMF and the World Bank. They said we were high risk of debt distress. Winston, if you are signaled that you are high risk of debt distress, your response should not be more borrowing. You get my point?
Yeah.
Your response.
And we were told that before COVID.
Yes.
We're told that this must have been 2019. Yes,
that's what I'm saying, that in 2019, we're told that we're high risk of that distress. Your response, in order not to increase the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Is to scale back. It's to now review and say, no, we can't do that.
Yes.
Our quest is not to spend more.
It's not to.
We are pretending that we didn't inflate our spending within the election year 2020.
Let me tell you what we did after we were told that in 2019, when we were told, we borrowed 113 billion.
That's not this is not recklessness.
Yes, and that is 31% of all the borrowing that the MPP has done.
Can you believe
so in other words, after we were told, we went and borrowed more.
Can you believe
and borrowed more? Nobody does that.
Who takes more? Which kind of risk?
Yes.
Analysis will lead to you when you are in high risk of debt distress.
And then you go and borrow more.
So talking about risk,
and then you say, I'm not being reckless.
Yes.
The Cambridge English Dictionary says that
it
is the classic definition
of recklessness.
Now, talking about risk analysis, I see somebody commenting The name is Joseph Kujo. Joseph Kujo.
Sounds
I don't
familiar.
know. Well, the Minister of Public Enterprises, Joseph Kujo, but I don't know if it's him. If it's him, it says, Evans, stop lying. Not always true. Investment have risk analysis. Investment bankers do risk analysis.
They do.
It is true. But if after the investment there are losses, who bears the losses? And I know that if it's the Honorable who has a lot of expertise in investment, he will be responding. Who bears the loss?
No, but let me also say something on that.
You say it before I answer.
They do risk analysis. But the principle that in the investment world you operate by, me, I'm an investor. Personally, I invest. Is the higher your risk, the greater the reward. My investment
But we know the rates.
I mean,
the
look,
rates
they tell me all that all the time.
The rates of the
look,
very risky
me, my
instruments
investment
support
advisor.
you.
Exactly. My investment advisor, when I was convinced me to invest, told me the list of things I could do. He said, if you do this, low risk.
Yeah.
But the reward is low. But in fact, they give you a risk measure. And based on your answer, they put you either in the extreme ends or in the middle. And I told them, I'm afraid of risk. So you give me medium risk. So they put me in the middle. So I went to buy bonds. They said bonds is okay. So I couldn't do the other things. And yet, Charlie, so as for that principle I was making, Mr. Kujo is right, but I'm also right.
So let me just help the cause here. After the decision has been taken to invest, after the risk analysis has been made, and I realized this could be risky. This is not so risky. In portfolio management, the analysts argue that you don't go invest in one kind of investment. As in,
you don't throw all your money in one basket.
So there's times that you invest in those that are positive, those that are negative, and they always have a risk-free element. But let me just say something. When an investment banker goes to invest and there are losses, who bears the loss?
Who bears the loss?
You.
Of course.
He gives you, you've given him your money. He's supposed to invest.
It's simple.
He doesn't use his money.
No, he doesn't lose his money. He's used to your money. When he makes a loss, he actually would pass it on to you.
I tell you a story.
When he makes a profit, he will keep it. And determine what
you are 100% right. When I make my loss in this haircut, that has happened. Haircut has happened. Inflation is already giving me the haircut already. My thing is in negative already, right? At the point, I felt sad for my investment advisor, right? I felt sad because when they were advising me to put my money in there, the economy was okay. Nobody foresaw this happening. But I got upset that I allowed myself to be talked into the thing. But I've lost money. Who is bearing the brunt?
Yourself.
100%. 100%. But she probably would have said, but nobody knows her. It's fine. She would have made a lot of money from the fact that he brought my money into the pool.
That's true.
And they are managing it for me, right? So what are we saying? We have a finance minister who is like this, my investment analyst, advisor,
nothing,
right? Unfortunately, instead of supervising over a private fund or being in a private bank, he is a finance minister of a country.
On the borrowing spree.
Right? And the principle that they apply to me cannot apply in the case when you run a country.
No, government is different.
That's the point you're making. That's the point you're making.
Government is different.
Unfortunately, because of his investment banker mindset, he's translated that hook, line, and sinker to managing the economy. And so he's going on a borrowing spree. And that is why the Cambridge Design says, you are taking risk without taking care. You are taking these things without taking, and he's running and borrowing.
Under this government,
Joseph is still responding. He has responded again.
Yeah.
He says, Ghana as a country can't afford to take that risk. We have nothing to depend on. All big investment institutions have a lot of portfolio. How I wish we could share our Zoom link. If we had Zoom link, so
you should join us so that.
We have a Zoom link.
Let's share it. So that he can join the conversation. I'd like to see who's behind it.
Let the social media guy put the link on the live page.
If it's my very good friend Joseph.
This is Joy News or Joy FM.
I think it's Joy News. Just Joy News.
The Joy News link. So you can join.
I don't want to have a call conversation.
No, but it's a very important point we're making, right? But and honestly, when I look at our problem, I think it's fundamentally down to the character, the nature, the history and experience of the finance minister that we have.
Because Sektepe also went to Eurobond But if you look at the amount of money we borrowed with it compared to what we have done, it is extremely high. And we are saying this.
Look, this is the first time we have an investment, and that borrow is unprecedented. You just made the analysis.
The accountant will realize a few things. The accountant, first of all, realize that he would do the projection.
And by the way, he's accountant. You're talking about Setekpe.
Yes, and
that's his background.
Baredu and Co.
Baredu, yes.
And economists would also have done the analysis. And
then you had a lawyer, the longest serving.
So let's do this with a tax background.
But
not financial background. So the accountant would have done the analysis and would have said that, look, what I am doing is within the long term. It's not just for me. It's going to be for others to also come and take over. What is it that I can put down to ensure that I can pay? Because when you borrow, you have to create a sinking fund. And a sinking fund,
which is what he did.
Yes, the sinking fund is telling you how much you're putting in there monthly or yearly.
Deal with the debt.
What was Oforiate's sinking fund? What's the name of that?
There was nothing.
So
that is what you call reckless borrowing.
So when you do that,
it's insurance.
It's insurance that you're going to pay. But you see, the moment you look at your account, and I mean, a lot of the predictions I've done on air, I've just looked at our accounts and I said, this one, where we are going, we'll crash. When you look at the account, you say, okay, how much am I expected to make over the period? Now, when you say, for instance, that I'm going to borrow this amount of money. So the essence of using collateralizing or securitizing our funds is that these funds is what you probably will call tax anticipated loans.
The tax is beba.
Yeah, tax is beba. So the tax is going to come. So if you borrow more than it and the tax cannot pay, if you borrow more than the tax.
Classic example.
You have a problem.
It is when John Mahama built the airport, Terminal 3.
Yeah.
You know that thing is paying for itself.
Yes.
Classic example.
Yeah. So what you do is that in that particular list, and you see one of the things we've done.
They created a vehicle, then the infrastructure fund.
The Ghana
GIIF.
Yes.
Infrastructure Investment Fund.
Yes. So that
what they actually did. So the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund is a shareholder in Terminal 3.
Yes.
Because they also contributed to the building of Terminal 3.
Yes.
So what they would do now, when they have put in their money, then you would go and borrow the rest of the money. Then Ghana Airport Company, that will sit on your books because you are expected to generate revenue. The government only provided a guarantee for you.
Yes.
And that is one of the smartest things Setekpe did. He said he was doing smart borrowing. So companies that had good books.
And we laughed at him.
We mocked them out.
Go ahead. Good books.
I remember. Let me hold out my hand.
No, you see, companies that have good books can go ahead and borrow on their balance sheet.
Yeah.
So what would happen is that, for instance, if you're borrowing, so if the University of Ghana, you're building a University of Ghana Medical Center, for instance, you'd have to ask yourself that simple question. How do I raise money over the period to be able to take care of this?
Can this facility pay for me?
If it cannot pay for you, government would say at that point that, okay.
It's a social investment.
It's a social investment that I am doing.
Don't expect any return back.
I am going to let you fund a bit of it. I am also going to contribute because there will be Ghanaians who would come there.
Yeah.
After all, these Ghanaians are going to pay. It's one of the reasons we say that, look, when we use that, so when you can pay, you pay.
Yeah.
If Raymond cannot pay, then government goes in to go and help Raymond.
Yes.
And that is how governments are.
It's amazing, eh? It's
that
amazing.
is how even countries with money, they run their social structures.
Yesterday, the president says his reason for telling he didn't borrow recklessly was because he spent the money and he listed the things. I build roads, one district, one factory.
6,000 feeder roads.
Look, make what back. I'm just flowing from your fantastic point. So if it's not reckless, then I'm expecting that the things you are telling us you're spending money on should be
pay for itself.
One of the things, let's take roads. One of the best ways for roads to pay for itself is towing it.
We removed it.
You've taken the tow away.
Reckless manner.
You've taken the tow away.
In fact, the problem that you're bringing it back anyway.
And you're telling me that you're borrowing to build a road is not reckless? It is. Because it says, the definition from Cambridge says when you take, showing a lack of care about the risk, there's no care. The risk was to borrow, but when there's no care, it means you're not factoring in how that is going to. And you know the most interesting irony? The last budget, they have a line in the budget that says that they're not going to introduce commercial tolls.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It is one of those big insults, right? So the state says, I don't need tolls, but then realizes that the private guy can come in and invest in a road and make his money back.
In fact, motorway.
It doesn't make sense to you.
No, in fact,
doesn't make sense to you. The government says, I don't want tolls.
Yes.
Then abolish the toll.
It can be viable when it's a private.
I mean,
look, in fact,
what kind of country are we?
In fact, motorway.
Because the government, because you see, they don't feel it's their money. The risk is in such a way that, let me just go look for the money and do it. Sometimes we make promises at funerals. we go to funerals and say that you deserve a good road.
I don't understand. So
Let me tell you something. You see that motorway, 10 lane.
Yeah.
By now, we should have known the number of vehicles that use the motorway daily.
But that number is there. I've heard Engineer Mahama.
About 50,000
Yes, I've said it. I mean, there's an estimate. You can update
today, so we should know how much the 50,000. If it cost us $570 million, that's about 6 billion Ghana cedis. How much toll do I need to charge? What
to make this back
over? What kind of vehicles? So for the huge trucks, that will put pressure on the road because the road must be built to specification.
Yes,
they must pay more. How much must they pay? What is the number of these vehicles that use the road? So you look at that and you analyze it and say, I'm going to charge them.
And you look at the lifespan of the road.
And it's going to take me this long to make it
this long. Then you charge them accordingly. Then when you say, so for instance, the outer lanes that you would say would be used by Ghanaians who are not from the ports, for instance, they probably may pay less.
Yeah.
If you go and use that side and you are found out you are from the port, you'll be fined. You pay a penalty. In fact, you can actually digitize it and say, over a period, you can pay this amount of money up front. So that people can actually know that, okay, we raise that kind of money, invest that kind of money.
And if I use the motorway a lot, I would have front-loaded my thing a year. Pay the 400 CD or 500 CD.
You see, that's the whole idea.
And just swipe the card.
But
look, Legon.
I see. What I say. Legon. Under NSIT.
Yeah.
He was not a government official.
Which guy? And they went to break.
Legon can build.
It's 3 p.m. already.
Oh, but we're having fun. Please, let's go on.
Final words. Legon can build and toll in a way that people first raise concerns, then they come to accept it.
Now
I know.
Use it.
Yes.
I know people who.
You know how much it costs? 450 or something.
Recently.
That's for a year is good.
But that's legal.
Stop the traffic.
Yes.
That's legal.
Yes.
Evans, look, for instance.
A small enclave charging 400 CD a year.
Look, if you live where I live, for instance. You actually would go through University of Ghana, Legon.
And a lot of headache you avoid.
You avoid all the traffic and go and show up, at TF behind that place.
Yes.
You are crossing over to Acquah Junction. My guy, you are gone.
And because you avoid all of the traffic and the trouble that you go through, people are willing to make that kind of sacrifice.
And so this one from Alexis Ampov said the government is like the advertising of local medicine at our lorry stations. They'll tell you it solves all illness in this world. You just try and see. It will mess you up and even give you additional sickness. That is Akufo-Addo and Bamia for you. Kwame Saponsi is also watching. Thank you very much, Kwame, for joining. Abukari Al-Hassan says, I called as soon as funeral announcement made by the president. If you said you didn't engage in reckless borrowing and yet COVID-19 was a blessing for the government, what did the government do in 2017 to achieve the kind of growth they're touting? And though Daniel Bless says, it's quite intriguing and very interesting to just tune in to find you guys making strong analysis and points on the economy generally. Kudos to you all. Sweet Harp says, the government thinks all of us are daft, so we will just...
Kwame sent me one in here asking the question, we all must answer. He says, please, have the ambulance we paid for with COVID funds arrived? Please, if they haven't, then the president is in denial. And right, because the president...
That's true.
President was categorical yesterday that, on talking about the COVID funds, he says categorically that I have not mismanaged the COVID funds. But if you take COVID funds, I think it's 80 or so million cedis or dollars. I mean, I've forgotten the exact number, but it's a lot of money. To pay for ambulance. What is ambulance? Ambulance is more than that. I've forgotten the exact amount.
Well, the vaccines
no, there was an ambulance. Ambulance. I'll check. I have the number.
Yes,
my brief talk on this COVID funds business is that, see, we had an Auditor General's report. If the Auditor General had come to us and said, every amount of money was spent on the right thing, no need to retrieve, no need to refund, no need to do anything with the money, Evans Mensah, I would have agreed with the president that it was not abused. Today, we are in the Republic of Ghana. Your Auditor General is asking you to refund monies, retrieve monies, recover monies, and you are saying that it was not abused. Yeah. So the recoveries that we are insisting should be done. The money was properly given to the people, but yet not to recover the money.
$607,419 out of $4 million for the purchase of 26 ambulances that were never delivered.
Yes, I remember.
This is what the report says. So,
yeah, the report.
And you are saying to us in the Republic of Ghana that the money was better used.
Guys,
anyway,
Cry the beloved country.
I have to do part two of this.
So all we have to do part two.
have to do part two of
They
this.
started debating. They started debating
Parliament. So it will still be a matter of national interest.
We'll bring it up.
We are back for good.
So the verdict on the state of the nation is that there's a true one.
You are sitting.
Not to Abapa. It just rolls off your tongue because of a certain J. Kufuor. A certain J. Kufuor. Anyway, no, but let's say it'll be interesting, eh? Can NBC go and see J. Kufuor and say, can we
use your thing small? Oh no, Ghanaian politics, they don't really talk about intellectual property.
Ghanaian politics is not like intellectual property. In fact, you can even use your song. When you say, they say, why need you near a bar?
Enjoy the rest of your day.